The world has never been louder than it is now. Words spill endlessly from screens, from streets, from rooms where no one is truly listening. Opinions are traded like currency, reactions are demanded instantly, and silence is treated as weakness or absence. Yet for centuries, the most disciplined warriors in history trained themselves to do the opposite. They learned that silence was not empty, but powerful. In ancient Japan, the samurai believed that speech revealed the mind before the sword ever did. A restless mouth exposed a restless spirit. Miyamoto Musashi, undefeated in over 60 duels, wrote almost nothing during his life, and when he did, every word was restrained, deliberate, and sharp. He understood something modern life has forgotten. The one who controls silence controls himself. This story is about that forgotten discipline. It is about a man living in the modern world, surrounded by noise, who unknowingly walked the opposite path of the samurai. And it is about how silence, once embraced, dismantled the chaos inside him. Chapter 1. The noise within Kenji lived in a city that never rested. His days were filled with conversations that led nowhere, messages that demanded replies, and arguments that lingered long after they ended. He spoke often, not because he had something to say, but because silence made him uncomfortable. When rooms grew quiet, his mind filled the space with anxiety. At work, he explained himself excessively. At home, he defended his choices even when no one accused him. When alone, his thoughts raced louder than any crowd. He believed this was normal, that constant expression was a sign of awareness. But what he was experiencing was not clarity, it was fragmentation. Zen teachings describe this state as a scattered mind, pulled outward by every stimulus. The samurai understood that a mind constantly reacting could never remain steady in combat or in life. Before they learned to strike, they learned to still themselves. Kenji, without knowing it, was fighting every moment with his mouth open and his mind exposed. Chapter 2. The Samurai View of Silence. In Bushido, silence was not passive. It was an active discipline. A samurai was expected to speak only when words carried weight, and to remain quiet when speech served the ego rather than the moment. To speak unnecessarily was to leak intention, emotion, and control. Musashi wrote that one must not reveal one's heart easily. This was not deception, but preservation. The heart, once scattered through careless words, could not be gathered quickly. In battle, hesitation meant death. In life, it meant weakness. Zen monks trained warriors to sit in silence for hours, observing thoughts without following them. This practice was not spiritual decoration. It was mental conditioning. Silence sharpened perception. It allowed warriors to see reality without distortion. Kenji had never experienced this kind of silence. He had only known the kind that begged to be filled. Chapter 3. The First Act of Restraint. Kenji encountered the idea of silence by accident. One evening, exhausted from an argument that solved nothing, he remembered a single line he had once read from Musashi. "Do not let your mouth speak before your mind is settled." The simplicity of it unsettled him. He realized his mind was almost never settled. The next day he made a small decision. He would not speak unless it was necessary. Not wise, not impressive, just necessary. The first hours were uncomfortable. Words rose automatically, like a reflex, and he had to physically restrain himself. He noticed something unexpected. When he did not speak, others filled the space. They revealed more than he ever did. He began to see patterns, motivations, and tensions that were invisible when he was busy talking. Silence, he realized, was not absence. It was information. Chapter 4. Facing the Inner Turmoil. As the days passed, Kenji's silence turned inward. Without constant expression, his thoughts became louder. Regrets surfaced, insecurities demanded attention. This was the stage most people flee from, returning to noise to drown it out. Zen teaches that this discomfort is the gate. The samurai called it endurance of the unseen, gaman, to remain present without escape. Kenji learned to sit with the discomfort without fixing it, naming it, or explaining it away. Gradually, the thoughts lost their grip, not because they were defeated, but because they were no longer fed. Silence starved them. In this space, Kenji felt something unfamiliar. Stability. A quiet that did not demand action. Chapter 5. Silence as Identity. The samurai did not use silence as a technique. It was an identity. A warrior who spoke little was not shy or withdrawn. He was contained. His energy remained inward, available when needed. Kenji noticed changes others commented on before he did. People interrupted him less. Arguments rarely escalated. When he spoke, others listened. His words carried weight because they were rare. Musashi warned against unnecessary movement. He applied this to the body and the mind. Speech, like motion, should be economical. Kenji realized he had been wasting himself through constant verbal motion. Silence returned that energy. Chapter 6. The Modern Test. The true test came during conflict. A colleague criticized him publicly, expecting defense. The old Kenji would have reacted instantly. Instead, he remained silent. He observed his breathing, his posture, his impulse to strike back with words. The moment passed. The tension dissolved. Later, the colleague apologized. Silence had neutralized the situation without confrontation. This was not weakness. It was control. The samurai believed that victory often occurred before combat began. Presence, composure, and restraint could end a conflict without a blow. Kenji had experienced this principle in a modern battlefield without raising his voice. Chapter 7. What silence removes. Silence does not add something to life. It removes what is unnecessary. It strips away performance, explanation, and defense. What remains is action aligned with intention. Kenji no longer tried to be understood by everyone. He no longer narrated his life. Decisions became simpler. Relationships became clearer. Silence exposed what mattered and what did not. Zen teaches that clarity arises when the mind is not crowded. The samurai lived by elimination. Remove excess movement, remove excess thought, remove excess speech. What remains is readiness. Conclusion. The quiet edge. Silence is not retreat. It is preparation. In a world addicted to expression, restraint becomes power. The samurai knew this. Musashi lived it. Zen refined it. You do not need to withdraw from the world to practice silence. You need only to stop leaking yourself into every moment. Speak when words serve truth or action. Remain silent when they serve fear or ego. In that restraint, something ancient awakens. A calm that cannot be shaken. A presence that does not announce itself. A strength that does not need to be seen to be real.